Thank you for this honor. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we are in a global crisis. But we humans have the exceptional ability to imagine a better world, even during crisis. And we are capable of collaborating globally to turn that imagination into reality. And I'm not saying this just to comfort you in hard times. No, this is true. And the strongest evidence I know is the fact that the United Nations exist. The UN started as an imagination during a crisis, the Second World War. Imagine a future without the Third World War. Very unlikely, said the skeptics. And yet, here we are, 75 years later. And instead of a world war, we have had amazing social progress almost everywhere. The SDGs are also an imagination in a crisis. We used to think of progress as if economy, society, and environment were separate spheres, and that mindset led to the sustainability and exclusion crisis, which we are still in now. In reality, they overlap almost completely, and our mindset is changing. We must improve people's lives while at the same time we protect the environment. That's why we have 17 goals with 169 targets. 35 of them have sufficient up-to-date numbers to track the global progress. Welcome to the Global Sdg Race. We lined them up on the start line in 2015. Now, 5 years into the race, they should be here 1/3 of the distance. Who is winning? Ready, set, go! Let's see, they start moving. Internet is taking off fast, and cell phones, independent human rights institutions, is moving too slow. But inclusive employment is even slower, just like overfishing. But look to the left, slum dwellings is moving the wrong way, just like unsentenced prisoners and biodiversity, while child survival, as usual, looks like a winner. So this is what it looks like right now. 6 of these targets are on track, 24 move too slow or stand still, while 5 are heading the wrong way. Let's take a closer look at some targets through 3 important focus areas: poverty and inequality, gender equality, and climate action. In the first area, extreme poverty rate had been dropping for decades to 10% in 2015, and we agreed to aim for 0. But then the drop didn't continue. Last year's forecast looked bad, and then came Corona. This is the first increase in decades, so action is needed now. Now here's some good news. We have a world record in electrification. The world population grew, but the share with electricity access grew even faster, to 89%. As more poor communities are hooked up to the power grid, it means more poor children can now turn their lamps on at night and study and get better grades and hopefully escape poverty. Many of the targets, as you see, are somehow interconnected. Now, income inequalities. We said we were going to reduce them, but that has not happened. And this may stop the progress in other targets, like maternal health. Here is our second area, gender equality. Another world record here, births attended by trained health staff, 81%. Hooray! But beware. A global average like this often hides enormous inequalities. Let's go back to 2000 and see the huge differences between countries. Bubble sizes show total number of births in each country, and colors show regions. If we spread the countries out by income, GDP per capita, we see that the richest, to the right here, all are high up and close to 100%, while the other countries are on all different levels. That was in 2000. Now we play the world forward, and it's so good to see that most countries move upwards because more deliveries are assisted. But country averages also hide enormous inequalities within the countries. I will show you. But first, we changed the bubble size to show the number of not attended births, basically the size of the problem. And now, I split the population of a country into 10 income groups, with 10% in each. Look, the inequalities within countries are often just as large as the inequalities between countries. The connection here is super strong. Here's a very different gender-related target. Women should have 50% of seats in parliaments. In 2015, we had reached 23%, and we could achieve the goal by just bending the curve up a little. But we didn't do that. If women had equal access to power, that could possibly speed up other targets as well, like putting an end to child marriage or stopping the systematic violence against women, enabling women to decide when they actually wish to become pregnant, or sharing the burden of domestic care work. And maybe even women in power would do more than men to make the climate targets start moving the right way. Who knows? So here is the third area, extremely important: climate action. On the vertical axis, carbon dioxide per person. On the horizontal axis, Human Development Index. Look closely at the left bottom corner. I just started plotting the least developed countries, and the bubble size shows total emissions and you can hardly see them. And now, countries with higher human development, the pattern is crystal clear. And yet, there are plenty of countries with high human development and quite low emissions per person. This box shows where all countries ultimately should be. The question is, how do we get there? Let's look at electricity again. How much comes from renewable sources? Roughly some 25%. But the good news is, in many countries, renewable are now becoming cheaper than fossil fuels. So it's high time to accelerate a just energy transition now. So, in short, we are moving too slowly to achieve our goals. And I see two big reasons for this. First, we are still not appreciating how much our targets are interconnected, not just within each goal, but across the goals. We need to realize the huge overlaps, in order to switch mindset and get out of this global crisis of unsustainability and exclusion. Second, we need reliable data to know who is left out and where to focus our resources, and this is so bad. My favorite target is not moving. This target is to produce enough statistics to track all the other targets. The UN has an SDG database, and this shows how many data points there are per target. Look how it's increasing over the years, and we now have more data than ever before. But a lot is still missing. Many important things are hard to measure, and many of these indicators didn't even have an international standard back in 2015. But since March this year, they all have agreed standards. So now, let's use our imagination and imagine what a success would look like. We gather all the data points we need and we track all the targets. And imagine we build back better after Corona and we make all targets reach the goal line in 2030. Now, how strong is your imagination? And how strong is your ability to turn it into reality by collaborating with others? Remember, the future we're imagining here is the future of our children, my children and your children. So we, the people of the world, have really good reasons to take actions and make sure that this particular imagination becomes reality.